start your speech. You can please start sharing your screen. There is an option below, share screen. Just click on that. Are you able to see that icon? Just in the low half, you see there is, yes, please see the screen. Below, you'll find an option, green colored, share screen. Just click on that. And you're also muted. Can you unmute yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Are you able to see that share screen option?
Yes, ma'am. Zoom এটা খুলছে না, দেখো না। আরে তুমি আসো না, এটা খুলছে না।
Dr. Rituparna?
Yes, ma'am.
We are sharing your screen. Please see your presentation. Are you able to see that?
Yes, ma'am.
So
Yes, ma'am.
what do you do? We'll be sharing the slides, and whenever you want to switch to the next slide, please say next, and we'll do that. Is it fine? You can start your presentation on this.
Yes, ma'am. I would like to thank EPUCG 2021 for giving me this opportunity to speak. The title of my presentation is Hairy Projections on a Non-Hairy Cell. I am a first-year postgraduate trainee, Department of Pathology, IPGMER, Kolkata. This is done in collaboration with Department of Medicine, IPGMER, Kolkata. I would also like to thank my guide, Dr. Moumita Sengupta ma'am, for her constant guidance. First, the background of my case report. Morphology is the first step to the diagnosis of any hematological malignancies. The next panel of investigations are built upon the light thrown by morphology. For effective utilization of various specialized tests in a resource-limited setting, morphological categorization is a must. However, human body is known for its diversity, and hematopoietic cells are no exception. Hairy cells are the hallmark for hairy cell leukemia. Various theories are proposed explaining the cause of hairiness. However, these could not explain the morphological mimicry shown by non-hairy cells. Here, in our case report, we report a case of adult T-cell leukemia, which on morphology resembled hairy cell leukemia, resulting in a diagnostic dilemma, which was solved by immunophenotyping. Coming to our case report, a 45-year-old female presented to the medicine OPD with history of abdominal pain for last 3 months, sudden onset abdominal distension for last 1 month, generalized weakness and dry cough for last 1 month. Of late, she developed oliguria, nausea, vomiting, muscle cramps, and respiratory distress. On general examination, she was found to have moderate pallor, no icterus, cyanosis, clubbing, or pedal edema. There was also no visible skin lesion. Her pulse rate was found to be 84 per minute regular. Her blood pressure was found 100 by 70 millimeter of mercury. Her respiratory rate was found 30 beats per minute. Her temperature was found to be normal. On systemic examination, first coming to the GI system examination, there was found to be hepatosplenomegaly and positive shifting dullness. On respiratory system examination, there was found to be tachypnea and presence of coarse crepitations on right lung field. On reticuloendothelial system examination, there was no abnormality apart from hepatosplenomegaly. Examination of CVS and CNS system was within normal limit. A peripheral blood count was done. First, the blood count revealed anemia of hemoglobin of 8.12 gram per dl. The total leukocyte count revealed leukocytosis of 54,000 per cubic millimeter and a reduced platelet count of 80,000 per cubic millimeter. Next, the biochemical investigations showed a deranged liver function tests characterized by rise in bilirubin and low albumin. Her procal was found to be negative, her CRP was found to be low, and LDH was raised to 4 times the normal value. Next, the peripheral blood smear was examined, which showed 62% atypical mononuclear cells, which were medium in size with ample amount of plain blue cytoplasm, bilobed to multilobed nuclei, and prominent nucleoli. These resembled the flower cells morphologically. Bone marrow aspiration and biopsy was thus planned. The patient next, the patient on the background of raised uric acid level, high LDH, and low calcium level, and features of prerenal azotemia, along with the peripheral blood smear finding of atypical mononuclear cells, raised the suspicion of an ongoing tumor lysis syndrome, probably of underlying hematological malignancies. Hence, a bone marrow examination was planned. Bone marrow aspiration and biopsy was performed from the posterior superior iliac spine. The marrow aspiration was found to be aparticulate, but from the imprint smears revealed hypercellularity. Erythropoiesis was depressed in number, and few scattered erythroid precursors with normoblastic maturation were identified. Myeloid precursors were depressed in number, but unremarkable in morphology and sequential maturation. There were presence of 43% atypical mononuclear cells. Cells were large in size with basophilic cytoplasm and unusual polar and few circumferential hair-like projections. Nuclei showed bilobation, multilobation, and polylobation, resulting in the formation of flower cells. The chromatin was open with presence of 1 to 2 nucleoli. Megakaryocyte was depressed in number and only identified in imprint smears. Plasma cell was less than 2% identified. Mitosis was found to be increased. In view of the presence of flower cells, both in peripheral smear and bone marrow aspirate, the possibility of adult T-cell leukemia remained strong. Next, the bone marrow biopsy from fragmented tissue revealed bone with hematopoietic precursors being patchy in distribution and intermixed with blasts. The atypical mononuclear cells revealed high nucleus cytoplasmic ratio with basophilic cytoplasm and multilobated nuclei and open chromatin. The overall features were keeping with adult T-cell leukemia. However, the presence of hair-like projections on the surface created a diagnostic dilemma. Hence, a immunohistochemical stain was done on paraffin-embedded block, which showed weak positivity for CD3. Further, immunophenotyping was done for confirmation, and the result corroborated with adult T-cell leukemia. However, HTL1 antibody testing by Western blot or ELISA could not be performed in our setting due to lack of resources. To tide over the tumor lysis syndrome, the patient was initial treatment was started with adequate hydration, uricosuric drugs, uh, uh, and then the patient was subsequently referred to another center which specialized in treating hematological malignancies. Now, coming to the discussion part, uh, the cytoskeleton is composed of proteins that gives the cell its shape and internal organization. They help the cell to adopt a particular shape, maintain polarity, organize the intracellular contents, or migrate to other sites. In eukaryotes, the three major cytoskeletal proteins are actin, intermediate filaments, and microtubules. Each of these have specialized function either for cellular migration, transport, barrier regulation, or maintaining strength and rigidity. Hairiness is nothing but cellular projections composed of actin molecules. In hairy cell leukemia cells, the cortical cytoskeleton is composed of polymerized F-actin. These then supports the filamentous membrane projections on hairy cell leukemia cells. In contrast, the normal B cells have F-actin primarily located in the central part of the cell. Thus, the hairy cell leukemia cells apparently needs to increase the expression level of actin, concentrating it at the periphery to sustain their prominent membrane projections. Earlier, it was thought that the presence of hairy projections were a hallmark for hairy cell leukemia. This was thought to be a result of BRAF mutation, which was constantly present in all hairy cell leukemia cells. However, the presence of hairy projections on non-hairy cells and the absence of BRAF mutation in them refuted this fact. Hairiness on non-hairy cells were thus thought to be an adaptation of leukemic cells to increase the surface area to enhance cellular fitness in their microenvironment. Various viral and bacterial pathogens may also induce reorganization of the cytoskeletal structure of the host cell as a part of cytopathic effect, and thus develop means to evade the humoral immune response. Such may be the cause of hairy projections incidentally detected, as in our case of adult T-cell leukemia. Now, coming to the pathogenesis part, the virus multiplies in the host by establishing virological synapse and undergoing mitotic division. HTLV1 virus enters the cells mainly through cell-to-cell contact via three cellular molecules, the heparin sulfate proteoglycan, neuropilin-1, and GLUT1. It then passes its RNA to the host cell where it is transcribed to DNA. Using this proviral DNA as template, clones of viral DNA are synthesized. The viral genes like TAX are and viral protein leads to transcriptional activation of many other genes in HTLV1 infected lymphocytes. In addition, the HTLV1 basic leucine zipper factor also leads to the oncogenic transformation of many other lymphocytes. This results in proliferation of T lymphocytes and evasion of apoptosis. However, all infected cells do not transform to leukemia. Studies have shown the continuous accumulation of various epigenetic changes in infected cells, which leads to oncogenic transformation, leading to adult T-cell leukemia. The risk of carriers of the virus developing adult T-cell leukemia during their lifetime is 6 to 7% in male and 2 to 3% in women. Although aggressive, the disease has a long latency which ranges from 20 to 30 years. The original Shimoyama classification divides adult T-cell leukemia into 4 different clinical subtypes. The 2 aggressive subtypes, the acute and lymphomatous form, and 2 relatively indolent subtypes, the chronic and smoldering form. Recognizing these subtypes is important as prognosis and treatment are largely dependent on it. Adult T-cell leukemia has various clinical presentation. They are acute, lymphomatous, chronic, and smoldering. Acute form has an aggressive presentation with high total count associated with hepatosplenomegaly, generalized lymphadenopathy, and skin rash. There is marked rise in serum LDH and hypercalcemia. Next, the lymphomatous variant has prominent lymphadenopathy, but there is no peripheral blood involvement. The chronic form is characterized by diffuse exfoliative skin rash. However, there is no peripheral blood involvement nor hypercalcemia is found. Finally, the smoldering form is characterized by a normal to high total count with more than 5% circulating neoplastic cells. They may have an infective skin or pulmonary lesion, but no hypercalcemia is seen. The patient in our study was admitted in medicine ward with complaint of abdominal pain accompanied by generalized weakness and lassitude. Initial blood workup, which was done, revealed a high total count with moderate anemia and reduced platelet count. This was simultaneously followed by rapid deterioration of her clinical manifestation of her clinical condition manifested by flank pain, oliguria, nausea, vomiting, and muscle weakness. The next set of biochemical workup, which was done, revealed hyperuricemia, hyperphosphatemia, hyperkalemia, and hypocalcemia. Bedside arterial blood gas analysis was performed, all pointing to underlying metabolic disturbances as a result of ongoing tumor-lysis syndrome. The peripheral blood smear, which was reported, and the immunophenotyping confirmed it to be adult T-cell leukemia. The low serum albumin of 2.9 gram per liter, age more than 45 years, and high LDH all pointed to bad prognostic factors. The patient could not be managed at this setting and hence was transferred to higher center specialized for treating hematological malignancies. Here, in our report, distinguishing hairy cell leukemia from adult T cell leukemia based on immunophenotyping was of paramount importance, considering the fact that hairy cell leukemia responded well to purine analogs and had a good prognosis. In contrast, adult T cell has a poor prognosis and treatment depended upon the clinical subtypes. The standard treatment proposed as first line was zidovudine and interferon alpha. Chemotherapy was proposed only for lymphomatous form. Further, patients with the smoldering and favorable chronic forms are not submitted to any specific treatments. The heavy projection on cells opened the door to many other differentials. Hairy cell leukemia topped the list, followed by variants of hairy cells, the splenic diffuse red pulp lymphoma, and splenic marginal zone lymphoma. Again, literature points to various cases reported the presence of hairy cell morphology in a case of primary plasma cell leukemia. Similarly, hairy projections were also noted in a case of hepatosplenic T-cell non-Hodgkin lymphoma. Next, there was also a case reported of circumferential hairy projections in T acute lymphoblastic lymphoma. Also, literature points to the coexistence of hairy cell leukemia in various hematological malignancies such as Hodgkin lymphoma, peripheral T-cell lymphoma, multiple myeloma, chronic myeloid leukemia, and chronic lymphocytic leukemia. Our case also outstripped in this category of non-hairy cells with projections enough to cause a diagnostic dilemma. However, in contrast to long, thin circumferential projections as found on hairy cells, our case had few polar and short tuft-like projections. Also, further immunophenotyping with mature T cell markers, uh, usually CD2, CD5, HLA-DR, and TCR A beta positive with apparent loss of CD7 and CD3 negative expression, confirmed the diagnosis of adult T cell leukemia. The pathological differential diagnosis for adult T cell leukemia includes peripheral T cell lymphoma, unspecified, anaplastic large cell lymphoma, cutaneous T cell lymphomas such as mycosis fungoides and Sézary syndrome, and angioimmunoblastic T cell lymphoma. Given the variations in immunohistochemistry of the transformed T cells, HTLV1 serology is essential. Also, identification of monoclonal viral integration by Southern blot or PCR-based methods is also recommended during the diagnostic workup. Coming to the conclusion part, the lifetime risk for developing adult T cell leukemia is 1 to 5% amongst all carriers, but this is more with high proviral load of more than 4% in asymptomatic carriers whose lifetime risk is more than 20%. Targeted sequencing has been identified in pre-malignant clonal populations bearing known driver mutations in the peripheral blood of HTLV carriers up to 10 years prior to the development of adult T cell leukemia. Detection of these mutations 6 months prior to the clinical presentation may in the future enable earlier and more effective interventions to prevent the development of adult T cell leukemia. These are my references. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rituparna. It was a very nice case report and you presented very well. And you also gave the message very clearly that we need to exercise caution whenever we see hairy projections on the cell. Not every hairy projection will be hairy cell leukemia.
Yes,
you brought
ma'am.
out that point. Any questions from the participants? You can also mail your questions to the conference team and they can forward it to the relevant speaker and for the answers. So if there are no more questions, we'll move on to the next presentation, that is to our next